Hello everyone and welcome to the next episode of Art Side of Life, where it's all about how you can turn your creative passion into a profession. My name is Eva and my guest today is an illustrator and YouTuber from San Francisco, California. She studied at Academy of Art University and currently works full-time as a production artist and content producer at mobile gaming company Play Studios in San Francisco. She also created her own illustration brand called Love Teacup Kisses, which is all about fun and silly and cute characters. She has a YouTube channel of the same name where she creates her art processes, how-to videos and much more. Her dream is to create story universe for her brand Love Teacup Kisses as a magical place full of positiveness where people can escape from whatever troubles them. So please welcome Tatyana Vogt and let's get to the interview. So welcome everyone and please welcome Tatyana. I'm super happy to have you here.
Hi, thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Hi. Let's start with your background, how you got to art, and maybe what was the kind of the biggest decision you had to do in order to follow your passion.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm pretty fortunate. I've always really loved art, so it's been a big part of my life since I was a kid, and my family has been very supportive of me being an artist. But I wasn't sure that it was a path that I could choose until perhaps later in high school. My older sibling is also an artist, and they ended up going to the college that I went to, which is an art college, the Academy of Art University in San Francisco. And when I found that out, like, doors opened. I was like, what? I can do this as a living? So that was one of the biggest things that happened in my life. And there's two other. The second one was after graduating, I created Love Teacup Kisses, which is the brand and kind of business that I do at the moment. And that was a big turning point, because before then I feel like I was all over the place and I had no clue what I was doing, and I still don't. But I figured out building a brand helped me a lot with promoting myself and getting myself out there and having a focus. And that was an amazing thing to happen. And then the last biggest thing that ended up happening is I ended up getting a full-time job at a mobile gaming company. So I work as a production artist and a content producer at a mobile gaming company, even though I'm currently switching to become full-time content producer, which is a little less on the art side, which is exciting because it'll let me be more creative in my personal stuff. So I'm actually really excited about it.
Yeah, because it frees your brain, so I can do this, and then, cool.
Yeah, exactly. Because when you're like just working on art for a company all day and you're like drawing, and you get home, even though you're like, I want to draw things, you'll be like, I can only do so much more drawing for the rest of the day. So it's nice.
That's true. And did you have a mentor or someone who kind of inspired you to start your own company?
Not so much to start my own company, but to pursue art. I had a lot of people growing up. Like I said, my older sibling is also an artist, and my mother was into art, I guess, when she was in college, and then a young father figure when I was younger was also an artist. And I think he was probably one of the biggest ones aside from my older sibling, because he used to use Prismacolors and he would draw like sports cars. And it was more of a side hobby for him. But it's funny, I would see them and I always thought they looked like something you would see in a magazine. Like, they were so amazing. Yeah. So I was like, I want to do something like that. And he let me play with the Prismacolor markers. So that definitely helped me become more into art or get into it more, which was nice. And then an older sibling that I wanted to be everything. I wanted to be like them. So, so I drew, and it just kind of reinforced my love for art.
So you were kind of also comparing yourself with your, is it brother or sister?
They are non-binary, so they prefer they, them pronoun.
Okay.
So That's why older sibling.
Yeah. So then you were comparing, like, okay, how, the drawings
How
are
they
like
do.
on your side, and then, okay.
Yeah. And we would also draw some things together too. So that was really fun because I think at some point, and I don't say I want to practice doing comics more in the future, but when I was really young, we used to have a little comic that we did together. And I
Okay.
look back on it, what I did was horrible, but they were pretty good at it. And I really appreciate that they would put up with my really bad my bad panels. But it was really fun. So we would do stuff like that, where we would either just draw an image together where they would do part of it and I would do another part of it. And it was fun.
And then you can also share art supplies, so you can try different things. Okay, yeah, that's nice
Yeah.
actually to
Yeah.
have it at one home.
Definitely. That was always a plus. I'd go over. They were actually the person that introduced me into digital.
Ah, okay.
So I got into digital pretty early on, and it was because my older sibling had a really nice computer and they had a cool tablet, and I remember, and Photoshop, and they had Photoshop. And I remember the day. It was such a weird experience because going from drawing on pen and paper to using a tablet it's just it's a whole nother thing. But I remember seeing it and thinking it was so cool, so I would try. And the disconnect being like this, like drawing but looking up there it was interesting, but they're the reason why I got into digital.
And then on the computer you use like Intuos or Bamboo, or what did you use?
Yeah, I used I don't remember the first. No, it was an Intuos. So I ended up saving up. So they had an Intuos, a larger one, and then I ended up saving up myself, and I bought my first Wacom, and I think it was an Intuos, but it was a teeny tiny one, and because it was all I could afford, because I was in middle school, right?
Like
so
this size.
Yeah, it's a teeny tiny. But I saved up all my lunch money and I bought this little one. And then I think maybe like 4 or 5 months later, my dad ended up buying me a bigger Intuos for my birthday. And I felt bad that I spent the money for the little one, but I was so happy to get the bigger one because it was nicer. And I think it was an Intuos 2, and it was like gray, and I had it for years. And
Yeah, because it's really nice to learn, and I still like Intuos, even though I also draw on Cintiq, but the Intuos is also something just different. And you now draw on iPad Pro, right?
Yeah. So I do. At work, I still use a Cintiq, and at home, I have a drawing tablet that's kind of like a Cintiq, but it's not a Wacom brand. It's UG, so it's like an alternative. So I have that if I want to, but I've primarily been using my iPad Pro because it's so portable and it's amazing what it's able to do. It's just really convenient. And since Love Teacup Kisses, which is my side business, my hustle, since it's my side and I have a full-time job, I try and do anything to make it more convenient and easier for me to do this stuff for Love Teacup Kisses. So the fact that I can be on my bed and sketch and draw and edit videos and do things with this is just amazing. I'm actually going to do a review on it for my channel at some point. So.
Oh, nice. Oh, that's really good to see. Yeah. Because a lot of people are just wondering, what is the best choice for them? And yeah.
Yeah.
And you have the smaller one or the bigger one? Because there are two sizes, right?
Yeah, there's two. I think there's only two.
Yeah, I think so.
I might not, but yeah, I have the smaller of the two. The bigger one that I know of is it's a good deal bigger. It's, I think it's 12. No. I have no clue. I have no clue.
Yeah, I know they're smaller and bigger, so
But I like this because I can put it in my purse. So I also got the keyboard to go with it, so I use it as, I can type on it and stuff. And then the thing that makes it great for drawing is the Apple Pencil. And it was an investment, but it was totally worth it. And small, so I could put it in stuff. So not saying that my phone is small because I have the iPhone 7, but you can see it's not that much bigger. So it can fit in a purse pretty easily.
That's true. I like this, technology promotion. I have this. I have this.
I know. I'm like, here, let's both. Apparently, I am a big fan of Apple. They have definitely taken over.
That's true, yeah. At first time also I tried, then you don't go back basically with that.
I was really against Apple originally. It's funny to admit this. I was so against them, and now I have so much Apple products.
Yeah, because it's so mainstream and it's like, okay, I'm not going to be like everyone else. And then it's like, yeah, but probably they use it for a reason.
It's so convenient because they work so well together. So like I could like shoot a video on my phone and then I can airdrop it to my iPad and I can edit it directly there. Or if I do a sketch in my sketchbook, I can take a picture of it and then I can color it on here. So it's really easy to go between the different products, and it helps with my business and my art in surprising ways. I'm sorry, this is turning into an Apple commercial. I other guys, I do.
And we talked a bit before the video editing and how you prepare your YouTube videos. Maybe you can mention for people like watching or listening, how do you do it for iPad Pro, and then how do you do it on computer? Because I think that's really interesting, because when someone is new to it, they're so confused, like me.
Yeah, definitely. So when I started out doing YouTube, I just used Adobe Premiere Pro because I was paying for the Creative Cloud so that I can use Photoshop, because I do a lot of digital stuff. So I had access to it. So I was like, well, I have the program. Let's figure out how to use it. And it's a big program, and it does a lot of great stuff. And I do recommend it. It's great for like professionals and things like that. But as we were talking about earlier, when you go to render or export the movie after you've done editing it, it takes a really long time to do it. So I've had times where it's like, okay, I'm ready. I finished editing everything. I've saved it all. It's all good to go. Let's actually turn it into a movie file and put it on YouTube. And it's like an hour plus just for it to like be ready for me to put it on YouTube. So when I ended up getting the iPad Pro, which I actually didn't get for drawing purposes, even though I do use it primarily to draw, I got it for taking notes and trying different things like movie or video editing. But I saw it came with iMovie. So I was like, I'm going to play with this. And I did. And I was able to make videos at the same quality, but it only took a couple of minutes instead of an hour over to render. And I was just like, what?
It's like mind-blowing.
Exactly. It was mind-blowing. So I used that for a little while, but there are limitations to it, obviously. You can't do the same things you can do with Premiere Pro. So I ended up YouTubing and Googling some alternatives, and I ended up finding this app called, let me look it up real quick. It's called Luma Fusion. And I don't know, you probably won't be able to see it, but it's got that little icon
it's visible,
there. And it's very similar. It's a paid one. You have to pay for it. And I've only been using it for a short amount of time. I'll probably do a review on it at some time too. But so far, I really love it because it's very similar to Premiere Pro. So I'm able to do more professional edits. And like iMovie, the rendering is still really fast. So it's really convenient, and it's both of them, iMovie and Luma Fusion, are good for people who are starting out. I would say go with iMovie first because I think it's free for everyone.
I think it's free, yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
I definitely recommend that. And you can also, if you have iMovie on your computer, if you have like a Mac or something, you can work on the same project from your iPad onto your computer. But you can't do that with Luma Fusion, apparently. If you start a project here, you, for the most part, have to finish it on here. So that's one of its downfalls. But it's a good way to start.
And we also talk about the exporting numbers, like approximately it was around the 1280 by 720 or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think I export a lot of my videos at, I think, oh man, I feel like I should like look it up so I know, but I think it's 1080 by 1220 doesn't seem right. I feel like I should look it
Ah, don't
up.
worry. It was just like kind of interesting fact because if it was like 16:9 ratio, I think, and it's like
Yeah.
it's not the smallest size, so it's kind of like mid good quality video for YouTube.
Yeah, and I try to do 1920 by 1080 is what I do
Okay.
with an HD
Mhm.
option. And that again, like you said, it's the 16:9 aspect ratio.
Yeah. Yeah, because if people want to do also like kind of like a layout on top of your video, you can prepare it in Photoshop as a like PNG, then cut out stuff and then paste it in that, and so you see the ratio, and so it's easier
Yeah.
than the masks, in Premiere Pro. At least what I kind of like. So,
I
oh,
agree.
yeah.
I do admittedly, I do use some other programs on here. I use this like editing program called Over, and it has the size for a lot of different social media things
Oh,
already. So it has um, a template for YouTube thumbnails and YouTube videos, which apparently are different sizes. So it
yeah.
has the 1080 by 12 whatever. I don't know.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
has that aspect ratio, and then it has a different one for the thumbnail. So I'll just go like, oh, time for me to make the thumbnail for the video, and I'll just click the thing. And that's why I forgot the numbers. I used to know the numbers a lot better because I had to type them in on
Yeah.
Photoshop when I was creating a document for it.
Because now also the thumbnails they are moving because it's like a video for the hover over, so it's not just JPEG, right?
Well, I think that's a
I don't
new
know.
thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're able to make custom ones of those
Or maybe
yet.
they
So I
just
don't know if
make
you
it, yeah.
can put, yeah, because I know that they have the thing where you can select from the video something to use as a thumbnail, but usually it
Hmm.
doesn't look as well or as good as if you created one yourself. But I'm pretty sure if you create one yourself, it doesn't move because it's just the
Hmm.
JPEG. I'm hoping at some point they allow us to create some sort of like little
Preview.
GIF, yeah, like a
Hmm.
moving. That would
Yeah.
be cool.
Crazy.
Although it would be more work, but it
Yeah.
would still be cool.
That's actually true. And so, is there something you wish you knew before you started your art career?
Yeah, I sometimes I feel like it's embarrassing to admit this because anytime people ask me like, "Oh, like how can I be as good of an artist as you?" And I'm like, "You can be a better artist than me if you just practice, practice, practice." And I kind of wish beforehand I really took that to heart and got into the habit of creating art and practicing new things on a regular basis because I feel like that's just a really good habit to have.
Yeah.
And it does make you a better artist if you do that. Also, I wish I could go back and tell myself the things that I'm interested in and working on now so that I could start it sooner. Like if
Yeah.
I could have done YouTube years earlier, like that would be really nice. um,
That's true. And so, for people who don't know, how long are you on YouTube?
so I started my YouTube channel, I believe it was in like March of 2014.
Hmm.
So it was a couple of months before I started working at the mobile gaming company that I work at right now.
Yeah.
And I was pretty consistent at doing weekly uploads for most of it. I did take a year long, well, maybe not entirely a year long, but a very long break in between for a short amount of time. I'm all over the place. I took a break for a while and I recently got off of that. So I've been posting every Thursday again. And I'm hoping to do more videos a week at some point, but time.
Yeah, that's true. And when you're busy and creative, like having job and YouTube and everything, how do you decide what projects to work on? Like what to say yes and no to? What is your like thinking?
Yeah, so when it comes to like outside projects for my YouTube channel, it's really easy to decide what I'm going to take on and what I'm not because I do have a full-time job that helps me afford living in the Bay Area, which is really expensive. um, so I don't have to worry about the money side of external projects. So I just go like, am I excited about this, and does it fit my brand? And will the people who follow my YouTube channel, will this be beneficial to them. So it's really nice because I can very easily stay on brand that way. But then when it comes to just personal projects and what I want to work on, as in my own business of Love Teacup Kisses, it gets a little bit harder because I want to do so many things. I have so many ideas. And since there's a limited amount of time, it's hard to pick, which ones should I do and which ones shouldn't I? So I do try and think of my business as a whole and think, okay, what can I do that'll help improve my business or get me further? Because ultimately, I do want to be doing Love Teacup Kisses full time eventually. I do really love my mobile gaming job, but Love Teacup Kisses, working for yourself is very different than working for other people. So there's an appeal to that. So I am always trying to think of like, what can I do that not only will I enjoy, but will also help make Love Teacup Kisses grow.
Yeah, and so when you think about your branding, how do you position yourself on a market, or what is maybe your vision you are trying to communicate through your work?
Yeah, so that's a big part of the brand. So when I first created Love Teacup Kisses, I was like, what is it? What's my tagline? And I was like, okay, I create cute, silly, sassy, fun characters, usually girls, female, and fashionable, and it's kind of that whole thing. And then I realized when I was working on it, it's kind of an escape for me. It's something that I draw these things to make myself kind of smile and to make myself happy. So I realized that one thing that I try and do with my business is to kind of promote things that are more on a positive side to kind of uplift people. So even if, so I guess in addition to the drawings that I do, I also try to make sure that I can promote, positivity and happiness among other people. Of course, I'm human and I have my down days, but in general, it helps because I'm usually a pretty bubbly, positive person most of the time. So it kind of just fit. I just put myself into the brand and kind of rolled with it. Yeah. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Clueless, but rolling with the, okay.
Yeah, I can also imagine you in some movies because you will be like the sunny, happy titles. Oh, no problems, everything is fine.
That's something that, admittedly, because I have another YouTube channel, which is my personal YouTube channel, where I do like book reviews and just random videos and like blogs and stuff. I don't focus on it as much as Love Teacup Kisses because art is the only thing that it's consistent and it's the only thing I always come back to. But I always thought it would be fun to do little skits on the other channel. So that could be a fun thing to eventually do.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So maybe what is like your inspiration, the main inspiration, and if you have something strange or maybe some other people think it's strange?
So yeah, I get inspired by a lot of different things. The main things that probably inspire me the most is looking at other amazing artists and also fashion. Fashion really inspires me. So I guess photography and fashion. Mm-hmm. So I do like, looking at like Instagram and, people, they're like, oh, look at me in my cute outfit. And I'm like, yes, it looks so cute. And then other artists, because I love seeing other artists do amazing things and it just gets me all excited. I'm all like, oh, I want to do amazing things too, so that definitely gets me inspired. I think it's funny because sometimes the art that inspires me the most, people would think would the least because it looks the least like what I do. So sometimes I'll, like creepy, weird, strange, like scary or like really realistic things. And I'll be like, that's so cool. I want to draw something. And then I go and I draw some cute girl and you're like, how did that inspire you? But sometimes that is, but I've also gotten inspired by weird conversations I've had with friends, music, something that I've eaten. So I don't know. Be open to anything for inspiration because anything can inspire you.
And
I think.
And do you also implement some of these things, in the drawing? Like, for example, if you say food, and is it like, I don't know, shape of the food, and then you apply it to, I don't know, hair or...
Yeah, sometimes. I mean, a lot of the times, the inspiration that I look at just gets me inspired to try and create something, and it doesn't always directly reflect what I draw, but sometimes it does. I have definitely like saw something, I was like, oh, what would, and this, not this specifically, although I think I may have in a sketchbook, but like what would a character look like that represents a kiwi fruit, or like a strawberry? Like, how would that character look? So I've definitely done things like that, or like have an outfit inspired by something like that, because again, I do really enjoy fashion. Definitely fashion has, I've definitely seen things where I'm all like, that top is really cute, and then that's been added into a drawing that I've done. That's an easy one. And then I think from different artists, I take a lot of really small things. So I might say like, oh, I love the fact that this artist used, this color combination, and that'll inspire me to draw something. Or then even if I'm not trying to do the same thing, it'll inspire me to practice and try and absorb some of that. So I might take something like be inspired by the way someone draws lips, and I'll just try and figure out how to implement that into my own art. So I'll just draw different things. I may not do the exact same one, but I'll use that as a way to, I don't know, expand the way that I draw things. It's great to just try and take little things from a lot of different places and mash that into what you create.
And and how do you maybe design your day, or how do you schedule yourself with everything?
So that one's is something I'm still working on. I really enjoy organization and planning and things like that, but I realize because I have the full-time job, and sometimes I just don't have the energy at the end of the day to do all of the things that I want to do. So I have to work around that. But what I try to do is I try to be fairly open on the weekend or the weekdays to just how I feel. I do try and get myself to draw something or work on something a little bit during that time, but I'll schedule more time on the weekends to devote to either making art or editing videos or things like that. Which can be hard because social life that usually happens on the weekends. So sometimes my plans get all messed up. But yeah, that's definitely something. I try my best to do a little bit on a regular basis instead of saying like, oh, I have to do this on this day. And I think one thing that works for me is having a list of like, oh, this is the things that I have to do. And then whenever I have time, I look at my list and I just kind of knock it off instead of putting it on specific days, because it doesn't always work out. And I'm the type of person that if I'm supposed to do something someday and I can't, I feel really bad. I really like being productive. So if I can't be productive, I find it very upsetting. So having a list so that I can go, I have the time to do this, I'm going to do this, is a lot better.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, because I like that as well. And it's like just to have something like, okay, I did this and I did this. So it's actually good. And how do you maybe stay positive? Because some people might have an issue with like staying motivated, and like, what do you do maybe on down days? Like how to motivate yourself?
That's a good one. So sometimes, and it really depends on the kind of down day that I'm having. So what'll happen a lot, and this is one of the reasons why I just why I try not to schedule myself too hard or too rigorous or too specifically, is because sometimes I'll have down days and it's hard to break yourself out of the funk. But what I try and do is, if I'm just not feeling motivated, but I'm inspired, because that happens sometimes where I'm all like, oh, I have these ideas and I want to do stuff, but I don't actually want to do it. I'll go like, well, I'll just take my sketchbook out and I'll just sketch for a little while. And usually once I get the ball rolling, the motivation follows. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh yes, I'll do this. And then I can do this. And then I get really into it. And then sometimes if I'm not as inspired and I'm not motivated, then I'll do something where I look at things that inspire me. So I'll look at fashion or I'll look at other artists and then I'll get inspired and then I'll do the thing where I'll sketch a little bit and then I can start working on my bigger projects or whatever else. And sometimes, because sometimes that can also not work. If I look at other artists, sometimes that might make me feel worse about my own art because I'll be like, well, I'm not good at as good as art as this person, or I'm not as far along as this person. So what I like to do when I'm feeling down about my art and where I'm at is I like to look at my old stuff and say like, oh, I'm so much better than I used to be.
That's good.
Yeah. And sometimes, I'll look at something and even if I'm like, oh, I'm not better than I was at that time, or I don't feel like I am, I might go, what can I do to make that better? Because just because I might not be better at painting this thing or sketching this thing, I do understand how to make an image better by like redesigning it or something like that. So sometimes I'll just redesign an old drawing that I did and that'll get me motivated and then I'll feel better. Or I'll just go further back where I am better. I'm like, I'm definitely better than I was 5 years ago. So let me
you look like, yeah. I do that sometimes, like, oh my God. And they're like, yeah, okay.
I actually posted this? Yeah.
And then you have this like giant copyright through it so no one takes it and it's like, oh my God, what was I thinking?
Yes. The like watermarks on everything. Yeah.
But anyway, so let's talk about networking. Maybe how do you get to know more people? Do you go to events or do you do everything online? And basically, what's your approach?
So I get a lot of networking online. There's a wonderful community of artists on YouTube and Instagram and Twitter. I'm not the best at social media, but I have definitely met some really awesome people through it. And I've also done conventions. So I've usually in California, because I'm based in California. So I've done things in like LA and, the Bay Area. I haven't done a lot of conventions, but I have met people through them, which is really exciting. And then I tend to do some small events in like San Francisco. There's things like Sketch Tuesday or like quick draw events or like just different doodle events that different people have put on that I either know the people from it or have friends. I did go to the Academy of Art University in San Francisco, so I met a lot of people at school, and then I'm also fortunate to work with a lot of artists, so I tend to meet a lot of new people that way. So I get lucky, and I meet a lot of awesome people in regular day-to-day life, which is really nice. But definitely social media and just the internet is a great tool to meet people, and just going to conventions. I think if you don't have a job with a lot of artists and you didn't go to an art school, I think those are a great place. And just looking at what sort of events are available in your area, like it could be flea market sort of things, because sometimes they have little like artist sections at stuff like that, or it could be things like a Sketch Tuesday that might be available in your area. But really, conventions and online is always a good place to network and meet new people. And I guess one thing to say is when you really like somebody, a good way to approach them, especially if they're a little bit more popular, is to just engage in what they do and don't expect them to necessarily come back. They will notice you, especially if you comment on their things fairly often. They will start saying, oh yeah, this person, and they'll look into you. And you could build a relationship that way by actually, because it's easy to have a lot of people flood you with comments, and it's hard to pick out and remember every single person. But if you're consistent, you can definitely build some good friendships. And if you genuinely are interested in what that person is doing, it will show, and they will appreciate it.
Yeah. I think that's a great tip, because sometimes people don't know how to approach. Maybe they are too familiar, they are maybe too reserved, and so something in between, right?
Yeah. You definitely don't want to just go around and be like, hey, look at all of my art and follow me, because if that's the first thing you say, it's awkward.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel genuine. But if you're talking about like, oh yeah, this piece that you're doing reminds me of this thing that I'm working on, or I just really like the stuff that you're doing, and you just comment enough and you like mention things like, oh, I draw, I do this, that person will notice and they'll be like, oh,
Mhm.
really? Like, that's cool. Check out your stuff, or things like that. But again, don't expect them to, because sometimes they might be too busy, or they might have other things going on in their life. So you want to do it with people that you genuinely enjoy their stuff and you don't need anything from them. And also, if you find people on the same level as you, it's also easier to, befriend them, because they're in the same place and they can relate more, because you can talk
Yes.
about your experiences more.
Yeah, definitely. And what about your projects? Like, what is something which is exciting now or something upcoming you can share?
Yeah, actually, I think it's a little bit funny. For most of Love Teacup Kisses life, I've focused on creating products and things like that, and kind of just churning out content. And right now, one of my big focuses is more on the art side and the development side. So I'm focusing a lot on one, just improving my skills as an artist and kind of figuring out what I want to do artistically
Mm-hmm.
with Love Teacup Kisses. And there's a whole entire world, and I have multiple stories, and I want to try doing like comics and things like that. Something that I've been working on and really, really enjoying. So I'm really excited about focusing on the story aspect of things. I do love story, and I have a lot going on. So I've got my main mascot, Kaylee, and her friend Stella, and I'm going to focus on small slice of life moments with them doing comics, and trying to, I guess, practice doing comics, because I don't have a lot of experience aside from what I mentioned before with my older sibling. So get some practice in, and then develop just the world. There's so many ideas that I have and that I think would be fun to do with Love Teacup Kisses. And then I'm also hoping at some point to focus on creating products that I do the art for the product instead of making products based off of art. So I want to kind of plan out the products a little bit more and do some things. There's some things that I really want in my life, and I'm all like, oh, I should design some stuff for that. So I'm hoping to do a little bit more of that in the future. So those are some of the things that I'm really excited about.
Ah, that's super cool. And so, is there maybe, okay, like something maybe you learned from when you were like developing your brand and starting the whole art career, like maybe the worst moment or difficult moment, that when maybe what was the takeaway from that?
Yeah. So probably in the lifespan of my brand, one of the worst moments that I had was I burned myself out. um, so that's one of the reasons why I ended up taking that break I had mentioned with my YouTube channel and everything, is because having the full-time job and wanting to do so many things and getting really excited about everything, I just put too much stuff on my plate. I was running my Etsy shop to its full capacity. I had my full-time job. I had my YouTube channel. I had a Patreon where I was trying to do completely new subscription-based awesome products every month. And it was just taking on so much. And I was really excited and I was really enjoying it. But I just physically couldn't handle it. And also social. I was trying to have a social life as well. So I ended up burning myself out. I had a major event. My grandma had passed away. So I took a little bit of time from social media, and I just had, because I went like up and then I like crashed, and I had a hard time getting back up. So I stayed on my break for a while trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And that was probably the lowest time of my Love Teacup Kisses existence. But I learned a lot from it. And one of the things that I'm now because of it doing is making sure that I take care of myself. When you're really excited about things, and as an artist, a lot of artists know this or have experienced this, you get so passionate about what you're doing, and sometimes you just don't think about yourself and what you're able to do. You don't give yourself a break. Yeah. So one thing that I ended up doing recently, and I'm going to try and do as things go on, is I took a 2-week social media break. Where just for 2 weeks, I was not required to do anything on social media. And I let everybody know beforehand. I was like, hey, I'm doing this 2-week break. I'll be back right after. For the first time, I wasn't super successful. I was still so excited about working on things that I posted. But it's a good thing to try. And I in the future, there'll be times where I'll take the whole 2 weeks or something. But it's just a good habit. And I'm also a little bit more mindful of what I take on and what I'm physically capable of. And I'm nicer to myself about things. If I can't do it, that's okay. But I stick to the things like right now, YouTube and Patreon are my main focuses, and everything else, it's okay if I can't do them, because as long as I'm consistent with my YouTube and consistent with my Patreon, that's enough. So
do you still do it sometimes? Maybe like every Sunday that you don't use any technology, or you don't like follow up on this that much?
That would be a good idea. No, my idea is, or what I was thinking of doing is every couple of months doing a like two-week break or something. Because in the day-to-day during the week, I'm not always on social media very much. So I think the burnout has to do with a lot more than just the social media aspect. I think the benefit of taking the 2-week break from social media is that it also gives me a chance to kind of take a break from everything else. Yes. So that's the idea, is just giving myself the chance to relax or catch up. Because I think one of the things that burnt me out before is I didn't have the time to relax. And anytime I did, I was too busy trying to catch up, like making sure that I was either ahead or caught up. So that like, I didn't fall behind on a YouTube video. Because I remember at that time I was getting to the point where I was so busy and I wasn't ahead anymore. I love being ahead. So on my videos go out on Thursday. So Wednesday night I'd be editing and fixing everything. And then, then I'd have to go to work the next morning and, everything. And there was even some times where, I was doing the final touches because I had to wait for it to export on Thursday morning before it would go out. So it got really stressful and then the weekends were busy because I was socialized. So now my idea is, if I get to that point, I'm just going to have to be like, hey guys, I need my two-week break and just take that break early on before it becomes too much as a whole.
Yeah. And do you do something daily which kind of contributes to your success? Maybe like a meditation or sport or healthy food or something?
So I've been trying to eat healthier just in general. I really love avocados, which is a plus because they're good for you. But the one thing that I tend to do is I'm very fortunate with the full-time job that I have in many ways. And one of them is that it's in walking distance from where I live. So I whenever I can, if it's not like rainy or, I have some specific other thing that I need my car for, I will walk to work. And I find that to be really relaxing because another thing is I really enjoy reading physical books. But when you're drawing and you're constantly trying to spend all of your time working on, business and art related things and social and stuff like that, you don't have a lot of time for reading. So I read while I walk to work. So that's my me time.
So do you read like this or like this? And
I read like this so I can see it in front of me. And then anytime I get to a street, obviously, I not only look up, I actually physically kind of close my book so I'm not tempted to look down. And I look and I make sure it's safe and then I walk. And then I'll just start reading again. And surprisingly, I haven't like run into anything or fallen, but I do it. I do it on a regular basis. I've gone through several books that way.
That's great. I think you have really great perspective vision, you know? So it's like, yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, it works out pretty well, you know. Like there have been some times where people have gotten like who are walking, and they've gotten closer to me than I realized, and then I'm like, oh, you surprised me, and then I'll like like move out of the way and like. But usually I can see them pretty far out, so.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, because actually when I was in Denmark, I was also going to work like on a bike every day, and people are like, so what do you do when it's raining or like snowing? And I'm like, yeah, I still go on a bike.
Yeah, I ended up because I like walking so much. Because I ended up I used to ride my bike too, but then my bike got stolen, so I don't ride my bike anymore. And I enjoy walking more personally because I think it's easier for me to control my speed and how I enjoy it, and I can look around a little. It's just easier for me to, and I could read. That's nice. But if it's like raining, I ended up buying this like poncho thing. So I've got like this poncho, and I just like put it on. And I mean, I can't read because I'll get like my book.
Yeah, I was like, how do you cover the book?
I'll like listen to an audiobook or something. But I think it's funny because I'll usually have like a backpack. So I have like this huge hump on my back with the poncho. So I look ridiculous, but at least I stay mostly dry.
That's actually really good. And so what books do you read? Or what can you recommend to people?
So I like reading a lot of books, but mostly just like novels. Embarrassingly, I'm a fan of romance, so I do read romance books, but I also read like adventure. I do like thrillers. I read this book. The Night Film was a book I ended up reading that I really enjoyed because it was a weird one that had they had like pictures in it that went with the story, like you're trying to uncover some things, and that was really cool. It was a cool experience, and I enjoyed that so much that I ended up getting this sci-fi book called Illuminae, which is also the way it's presented is really interesting because instead of it just being a regular novel, you're going through documents of this event that happened. So they have it like as transcripts, and then they just have these different ways, like different media types of you reading this story. And I liked it because it was still a novel, but it was just, I think it's really cool when they do stuff like that. But I'm all over the place with the books. I on my personal channel, I do reviews at least once a month. I go over what I read that month and tell people like how I feel about certain books. But yeah.
Oh, that's really cool. We will put it in the show notes so people can check it out as well. And so like some of the last questions I want to ask you is about the future. And so what would you like to be, or kind of what is your dream scenario in 5 to 10 years?
Sorry. So my dream scenario, I don't know if it's super exciting for most people, but it's really exciting for me. And my dream scenario would be doing Love Teacup Kisses full time. Because anytime, it's embarrassing for me to admit, because I also like traveling too, but I love Teacup Kisses so much that anytime I take a vacation, I usually work on Love Teacup Kisses for the vacation.
Of course.
So that's what I do. There's staycations where I stay home and work on my personal business, and that it gets me really excited and really happy, and I enjoy it so much. And I do wish that someday I could do that full time because I have so many ideas. Like just thinking of the cool things I can do for it just gets me all excited. And if I could do that full time, it would be my dream.
That sounds good. And and the last question is like, what would you like to be remembered for in like 100 years?
So I don't know entirely. There's a lot of things I do hope to be able to make a difference with my art in certain ways, like contribute to causes that I really am passionate about. But I think the biggest thing, it's probably the simplest thing, is I want to have my art be a way that some people can kind of like escape. So if I can get into more of the story aspect, I can kind of take people into another world that can hopefully help them whenever they're not feeling so great. Because it's really nice to get lost in things like novels and graphic novels and, you know, just movies or whatever it is whenever you're feeling frustrated about wherever you're at. So I think it would be nice if I could give people kind of a happy, magical place that they could go to. And that would be my ultimate dream. Otherwise, I think just no matter what, if I can promote positivity and acceptance and kind of things like that, that I think that would be amazing.
I think it would be super cool. I mean, even just to like have you or smiling, you know, like as a screensaver, I think everyone would be like, yes, I can do this. You know, so that's perfect.
On a side note, I have at my full-time job, we have these daily stand-ups, and I every day, at least that I'm there, I end the stand-up by saying happy whatever the day it is. So it's a happy Monday, happy Tuesday. And it became such a thing that anytime I'm not there, every one of my coworkers is like, it was so sad without you. And so they started pressing me. They were like, you should like record the whole week.
Yes.
And I think at some point I'll probably do that for them. I'll just like have a recording so that, because it's nice when you say positive things or you just think positively, it spreads and it kind of cheers people up. And I really like, because I have the tendency to be really, really, really hyper, really like happy. And sometimes I wish I could like bottle it up and save it for the days where I'm down, or just like share it with people. So that's what I do when I'm really happy. I try and share it with people and like spread the positivity. But I wish if I could do one thing is that bottle up some of the happiness and save it for later. That would be amazing. You know, when you're feeling down, you're like, open my bottle of happy.
It's actually really good. I really like that. Yeah. Oh, that's a good idea for illustration or animation. You should do it.
That would be if because in my backstory, a lot of characters are a little bit on the magical side, and I think it would be funny if I had a character. This is going to happen. If I had a character who bottled happy and sold happy for people.
Yeah, but that's so good. I mean, or game character or something. Yeah, you should have it like, yeah, have some happiness.
Yeah, have some happiness. I buy it. I mean,
yeah.
To people here, have some happiness.
That's actually really good. I would buy it as well.
Right?
Yeah, for sure. And so if you have maybe like last piece of advice or guidance for people before we say goodbye.
Yeah. So the biggest pieces of advice I would say, of course, is practice. You know, if you're an artist, practice it. Whatever you do, whatever you enjoy, do it as much as you can. Remember to enjoy it and don't give up. Not everything comes easy, but if it's something that you really want, you really care about, just keep trying, because eventually it'll get there. And, you know, even if it doesn't, if you enjoy the process, like, oh, that's one thing. Enjoy the process. We have such a bad habit of only thinking about the outcome that we don't enjoy the process. And no matter what happens, if you learn to enjoy the process, you will be so much happier overall, no matter what the outcome is. So yes, enjoy the process.
I will try to learn that too.
Yeah, I'm working on it myself. But it's a good thing.
It is definitely. So thank you so much again for being here. It was great.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I feel so honored, and it was really I feel like I've been talking a lot, but I really did enjoy it.
So that's great. Hopefully people will have fun as well when watching or listening to this. And thank you again, and thanks everyone for joining. Hey guys, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and let me know in comments. Also, please subscribe to my channel for more videos because I post new interview every single workday. You can also find the resources mentioned in this episode at artsideoflife.com. Just type a guest name in the search bar. There is also a little freebie waiting for you, so go check it out. If you want to listen to the interviews on the go, make sure to check out the podcast episodes at artsideoflife.com/podcast. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you, and don't forget to inspire each other. I will see you guys in the next episode.